Good day all. Today I will present our research with the title The Urgency of Recognizing Ecocide for the Protection of Human Rights and Greener Future. Let me introduce the authors of this research. The first author is me, Johanna Kanabila, and the others is Dili Trisna Noviasari, Soroyama Itaja Udah, Hilda Dia Ulhak Ramadhani, and Resti Amalia Susanti. We are from Faculty of Law, Muhammadiyah Magelang University. The background of this research is large-scale environmental damage that occurs systematically and continuously has had a serious impact on environmental sustainability and the fulfillment of human rights. The exploitation of natural resources, which is carried out continuously until it leads to the destruction of the environmental and human source of life, occurs in various parts of the world, including in Indonesia. Environmental destruction has been happening for decades in Indonesia and has a wide impact. Some of the environmental cases that occur in Indonesia that had a serious impact were the Lapindo in Sidoarjo, East Java, forest and land fires, or Karhutla in East Kalimantan and Central Kalimantan. This environmental damage is caused by human activities, especially by corporations. This exploitation causes widespread impacts, such as the occurrence of victims and unhealthy environment and ecological damage, which takes away human rights, namely the right to life and the right to healthy environment, as stipulated in this Constitution, the Human Rights Law, and the I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, this exploitation caused widespread impacts such as the occurrence of victims and an unhealthy environment and ecological damage, which takes away human rights, namely the right to life and the right to a healthy environment as stipulated in the Constitution, the Human Rights Law, and Environmental Protection and Management Law. And then, according to the Environmental Modification Convention, an act of environmental crime can be categorized as an ecocide if it results in severe, extensive, or sustained damage to the environment. Internationally, the concept of ecocide is being pushed to become the fifth category of the most serious crimes regulated in the Rome Statute. However, to date, ecocide is still not agreed upon as one of the most serious crimes included in the positive law in Indonesia. It also does not regulate ecocide. The lack of a binding mechanism on corporate activities leaves a regulatory gap as the pure national mechanisms have proven to be insufficient in many cases to deal with situations arising from corporate activities. Therefore, the recognition of ecocides in legal norms is important in order to provide human rights protections and create a sustainable environment or a greener future. The methodology of this research, we are using juridical normative study with the conceptual approach, statutory approach, and case approach. For the data resource, we're using primary, secondary, and tertiary legal materials. And for the data collection, we use library research. So for the result of this research, the excessive exploitation of the environment and natural resources resulting in death and loss to human and living beings is known as ecocide. According to polyhedrons, ecocide is the damage, destruction, or loss of ecosystem in a certain area, either due to human action or other factors, which results in a decrease in the enjoyment of peace of the people in that area. In Indonesia, environmental destruction has been happening for decades and has a wide impact. Ecological disasters in Indonesia have increased from year to year. So many cases, environmental cases in Indonesia, that we will tell that case is like an ecocide. So the concept of ecocide is important in the midst of the human life tend to exploit natural resources. The concept of ecocide is the destruction of the natural environment that is carried out intentionally and or with negligence through various human activities that endanger human life. Therefore, the crime of ecocide is the extreme degradation of the environment, which is a vital object needed for the survival of society. This is the one of environmental case in Indonesia, Lumpur Lapindo, that the Lapindo Berantas Hotmat eruption that occurred in Sidoarjo, Java in 2006. According to Komnas HAM, the Lapindo mud eruption incident is not a human error problem, but the effect of the incident has the potential to violate the rights of the people around the eruption site. In addition, another effect that is no less great is the destruction of the surrounding ecosystem, and cannot be replaced and replaced. And other case is forest and land fires, as known as karhutla in Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan. In 2015, there were forest and land fires in Central Kalimantan that lasted very massively, resulting in significant losses both in terms of ecological, economic, and socio-cultural basis. Based on data from the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry, the area of land burned in Central Kalimantan is the largest in Indonesia. Forest and land fire crimes can no longer be seen as ordinary environmental crimes. According to the Indonesian Forum for the Environment, or WALHI, forest and land fires are suspected to be ecocides because air pollution that threatens human health and causes death, including children, are vulnerable groups. Forced displacement resulting from haze events that threaten health and lives, civilians evacuate themselves. Destruction of ecological functions, especially essential ecosystem areas such as peat swamp ecosystem. Peat ecosystem can indeed be restored, but it requires a long process and cannot return to the previous conditions, especially in a long duration or time fire events occur. Ecocide needs to be eradicated for several reasons. First, environmental exploitation has so far led to the destruction of human life resources. Second, the destruction is an action that is closely related to the practice of eliminating human life rights and has even caused the right to life of the ecosystem to be devalued. The third, being part of the exploitation of natural resources, lead to the threat of the security of human life today and the lives of future generations. Likewise, the threat to the extinction of biodiversity and other biodiversity. The destruction of ecological in this case should not be spirited from the fact that ecosystems are the order and series of human life. And the impact of ecocides, the impact is very long on a unit and function of life and cannot be restored. The second, there are units and functions that are destroyed in a series of life from the original condition. The third, there are physical and psychological deviation of human. So the impact of the ecocide is not only humans, but also wider Earth ecosystem. Ecocide is a systematic deprivation of environmental rights, economic, political, and social cultural rights. The Constitution of the Republic Indonesia, 1945, in the Second Amendment, uh, in Article 28H, paragraph 1, states that everyone has the right to live a prosperous life in birth and mind, to live and to get a good and healthy living environment. Likewise with the I'm sorry, and then in Law number 39 of 1999 concerning human rights, Article 9, paragraph 3 states the community has the right to a good and healthy living environment. Likewise with the law on environmental protection and management number 32 to 2009. In human rights instruments, the right to the environment is a human right that is included in the group of economic, social, and cultural rights. Although, of course, it cannot be separated from civil and political rights, as well as individual and collective rights. The Human Rights Act and in environmental law, the term ecocide is not found. Environmental crimes are regulated but have not reached the standard as gross human rights violation. Although there is no explicit recognition, some Indonesian laws regulate serious environmental crimes, but they are fragmentary, unsystematic, and only target ordinary environmental, administrative, or criminal aspects, not ecocide in the sense of massive, systematic, and prolonged environmental damage. The elements of ecocide are in line with gross human rights violations, namely structure, systematic, and widespread. Number of countries and global movements are pushing for the inclusion of ecocide as the fifth international crime under the Rome Statute. This development is relevant to be a reference for Indonesia in strengthening the protection of human rights and environment. So for the conclusion in this research, ecocides are a real threat to the fulfillment of human rights in Indonesia. Environmental crimes that occur in Indonesia show a serious impact on the right to life, the right to be a healthy environment, and environmental sustainability for the future generation. Indonesia's legal instruments have not yet recognized the ecocide, so human rights protection against large-scale environmental damage still weak. Recognition of ecocide as a form of gross human rights violation is a strategic step to strengthen accountability, improve environmental governance, and drive transformation towards a greener future. So, and the main recommendation of this research is the need for national law reform so that ecocide are comprehensively recognized and regulated in order to fulfill the state's obligation to protect human rights and ensure the survival of ecosystem or environments for current and future generation. Okay, that's all our research that can be present right now. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.